try to start out with some movement where you can put the muscle in a position where it's getting very good exposure, right, to whatever you're trying to train, but isn't really going to beat your joints up too much. Just get a little of that mind-muscle connection going. So for back in particular, I like to do a horizontal pull and then a vertical pull. So you got cool prime chest supported row over there. We can do a prime pull down variation too if you want. But start out there, and then for loading heavily, it's really up to you. But you can do however many reps and sets you want. Really, the only ones that are contribute to muscle growth are the ones where you're really digging deep. You're really working hard. You're, the weight's slowing down. You're having to push. It's feeling heavy. So really, if you just track those from session to session, you can know that you're progressing. You're doing more work for that muscle. And it's really hard to have some type of objective measure of growth over time. So I've been working on applying that concept to Prilepin stable. So, Prilepin stable traditionally used in Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting, and it's telling, okay, based on whatever percentage of 1 rep max you're using, this is how many reps you're performing per set, and how many total working reps you're trying to do over the course of a training session. So you're bodybuilding, you're not testing your 1 rep max on a chest supported row, but you can kind of extrapolate. If you're using 55 to 65% of 1 rep max, that's something you could do for a set of 15 to 20, right? So if we're doing sets of 15 to 20 on the chest supported row, just plug in all the other Prilepin values. 3 to 6 of those reps per set should be hard. And over the course of the training session, you're trying to get in, I'm going to say 18 to 24 effective reps in that movement. I think, based on what I've been playing around with, I think you got to go a little bit lower than Prilepin suggests for the total number of reps or you'll kill yourself. But it's a cool way of structuring your training without having to get into the point where it's like, how do I periodize this when I don't know my 1 rep max and I'm not necessarily going to failure and all that other stuff.
So basically we're talking about 20 reps that are
hard.
That are pretty hard, where you got to dig deep and allocate it over however many sets that takes. In terms of like how you perform some of these exercises, you'll hear some people say, hey, get a deep stretch. You hear other people say, it's all about how far you drive your elbow back behind your body. Other people say, well, if you're positioned well, you don't have to drive your, what's all of it?
I'm on the position side. I think if you're in the right position, everything else is going to take care of itself.
Right.
Yes, you can cheat your reps, right? But everybody knows what it means when they're cheating the reps, right? The reps at the beginning don't look the same as the reps at the end. I think the really important thing is to make sure that you're setting yourself up in the correct position. And so generally that's going to mean that your whatever joints are working are stacked. So you see when I get in the machine here, there's a straight line from my shoulder to my elbow.
Yeah, so over here for a second too, kind of check this out.
Yep.
You can see like there's a big old wing right there.
So, and then when I'm driving back, it's staying in that stacked position.
And
so
see,
now
he didn't really. A lot of times people will try to drive the elbow way back here, which can be advantageous too. But I think to his point, maintaining proper posture is probably the most important thing.
And then what I wouldn't want to see is if you jack this all the way up, then I'm not really driving on a straight line anymore when I come back like this. I guess I can still get it. It's a little bit more lower lat, but it's very difficult. If I'm stopping at 90 degrees, it's here. That's not a full contraction. I have to go a little bit further back. So, I mean, there are obviously use cases for that. If somebody has really underdeveloped lower lats, they have different torso position than me, but generally that's what we're looking for.
Maintaining a lot of position here, all through the lower back, mid back, lats. Really, just his elbows are just moving around.
So Mark, when you come down, I want you to internally rotate here a little bit. Internal, other way. Yeah, there you go.
That way?
Yep. You can keep it external, keep it neutral when you pull back. Yeah, just like that.
Woo. Let's go, Mark. Come on.
Yes.
I'm helping you through that weak spell. Let's go.
Good.
Fight it on the way down. Come on, Mark. Let's get 3 more in. Hold. Let it rip away.
Yes.
Hold, let it rip away. This is where we grow. Last one, come on, bud.
When we're looking at back development, I think a lot of people just think lats. But when you're actually looking at somebody's back, a lot of the width is coming from the rear delts, it's coming from the teres, it's coming from other muscles besides the lats. So it's easier to train those when you're in an internally rotated position with a slight protraction in the scapula. But then as you come back, you're going to be able to move more weight when you do come into that neutral position when you are fully retracted. So that's why we have that.
And there's little stuff too, like he's pulling great by himself, but if I give him just a little bit here, he can squeeze a little harder. I don't have to give him much because he's got plenty of strength to do it on his own, but just a little bit, it will allow a lot of times the person that's lifting to get even a little bit more mind-muscle connection. It's kind of weird, but this actually kind of almost makes it harder in some weird way. There you go.
Come on, bud.
Nice.
For this one in particular, you're thinking of back lat spread where you are protracted.
Right.
You're really pushing those shoulders forward, trying to pull the elbows back at the same time.
Right. Something that these two guys pointed out on my podcast was they found that sometimes when people have trouble with holding some of these positions that you would do on a bodybuilding stage, that oftentimes those areas are weak points, and that's me. I have a really hard time doing that kind of front lat spread. I don't have good mobility through the thoracic spine, so it's quite obvious that I'm going to struggle in movements like deadlifts, bent over rows. Never been very good at them, therefore it was a little more difficult for me to build a back, but I can lay down on my back and I can bench press some pretty good weight just because of the way I was built. Here we go.
You want help on this, Steve?
No, I'm gonna get a little aggressive, and next set you're going after it?
No, third set.
Okay. This will be my last warm-up.
Go, Biggs. Come on.
Yeah.
Go, Taylor.
There you go. If I'm just training by myself, or if I'm doing exercises with my bro just in here on a normal day, I'm not doing it quite the same as we're doing it here. And it's just a reminder, I need to bump the intensity up. It's like, why do something if you're gonna half-ass it? But on the flip side of that, I train almost every single day, so it gets to be hard to bring that every time. But training with guys like this, a good reminder. Oh, good set, Ben. Yep. There you go. You keep driving those elbows down. Come on, get it. Yep, there we go. Good squeeze into it. Big lats, come on now. Yep, come on. Come on. Yep. Nice work. Good set.
So I mentioned yesterday, powerlifting background, I tend to be over braced, right? So I'm pulling that rib cage down. If you're doing that on a pull down, you're trying to drive at the lats, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So you want to breathe up into the rib cage, you want to arch that thoracic spine just a little bit, and you want to be able to drive the elbows down, not have to kind of retract to get that movement started.
Now, on that note, with what Ben's saying, you don't want to be flared here,
Right.
doing a
You're
trap
hinging
row,
your hip.
right? You hear, I'm open.
Yes.
Let's see what happens with my lats.
Yep.
Come down here, using the stand to go more forward. Control it off your chest. Come on, Mark.
Yes.
Yep.
So you're gonna notice I'm gonna want to brace down. You're gonna see my serratus kind of contract, my abs contract. What I'm trying to do is keep that expanded position where I'm pulling in with the transverse abdominis, not the actual abs, and exposing lats more to the full stretch.
Are we pushing on this one?
We can push this, sure.
Come on, Ben.
Go! Here we go. Me, you, and the weights. Let's go.
Yep.
Good.
Nice.
3 more. Good. Last one.
Come on.
Good. breathing.
Come on now. Yep, fight for it.
Not really doing too much.
Come on, Ben. There you go, yep.
Oh, that was good. That was good with the kind of overlay at the beginning and then take it off. That's cool.
Just have something heavy on that first.
Yeah.
Screw you over.
Oh shit, I'm stuck.
Any particular way you like to do your rows? Do you push them out in front of you a bit, or
Yep. Yeah, I try.
like
to
some
keep my
people
rows
like to
pretty
kind of go
straight.
here?
Yeah.
Is that usually the way you do them?
So I try and elbows flared just a little bit more. This is how I like. I'm gonna internally rotate slightly. It ends up with my shoulder elbows in a neutral position, but I think about internally rotating. I'm using about shoulder width grip. Internally rotate just a little bit. I'm thinking about breathing up into the chest, arching the thoracic, just a little bit bend here. I'm gonna, when I actually do the weight on, I'm gonna have it dead stop because otherwise I'll cheat too much. Pull up to the sternum.
Trying to make a little contact.
Yup. And then when you'll do your set, finish off, just go straight into RDLs.
Oh, okay.
Okay? When you're doing your RDLs, it's not so much focus on the hamstring glute. Obviously, those can be involved. You're thinking about
lock it
rowing
in
the
the
bar
mat.
into. Yep.
Okay.
That's the plan. The cue I use on these, I'm thinking of pulling my chest through the bar. And that's going to help me to avoid what we talked about over on the chest supported row of trying to hinge and use more of the rectors and the hips. So notice how Mark has his elbows just slightly bent. The lats move independent of the scapula. So his upper back position wasn't changing. He was using those lats to keep a slight bend in the elbows. That's different, right, from when people shrug up. That's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to keep the scapula position the same. Use the lats to hold this into place, okay? So the difference is here versus here.
There's also no danger to your bicep because these weights are really light. Trying to pull heavy with the arms bent, probably not a great idea.
Especially if you're doing a mixed grip, right?
Right.
The double overhand grip a little bit safer.
This guy's the GOAT, so it's hard to go off of sometimes what those guys say. But Ronnie Coleman said, did the same back exercises for 30 years. What do you think of a statement like that and how that can...
So I'm really big on movement patterns over actual movements, right? So for me, yes, you want to do the same movement pattern for 30 years. That's going to be a vertical row, a horizontal row, a vertical row, and a hip hinge movement. Those should stay the same. You want to change it up a little bit. You want to do a different handle on the pull down. You want to do a different row machine. Totally fine.
Right.
You want to do a deadlift instead of RDL. That's fine. But if you're getting away from those basic movement patterns, then you're going off track.
Let's get these hiked up a little bit so you can see the hamstring a little bit better. There you go. Look at that hamstring hanging down. There we go. Yep. Come on, it's getting better. Push.
I'll
Yep.
go from there. That's cool. I got some feathers there still.
Is it sad when some of the stuff goes away, like some of the veins through the
It
leg?
depends on what it is, right? Like,
The important stuff isn't going away, right?
yeah, that's the thing. It's like I don't need quad feathers in the off season. That's silly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is like once the ab veins start to go away, the ab veins are pretty nasty. When you wake up in the morning, you've got like the head to toe vascularity.
But you probably have. That's why it's like you're seeing like a lot of little fibers kind of wiggling around in there. And we have people that come in sometimes that are fairly lean. Maybe they have like track background or different things like that. But we don't see that kind of definition. So you can't only be lean and you can't only be jacked. You have to be jacked and you have to be lean on top of it.
Yeah. Yep. There's with his strength development, there's a lot more like density in those fibers, right? And we were talking about how he got so big so fast. Not only the food, but he was pretty specialized in strength training, which means like he's pretty much only going to be adding density to his muscles. They're not going to actually be expanding and getting larger. They're going to be getting heavier and denser and stronger, right? So as soon as he starts pumping those muscles up, adding space between all those fibers, there's more fiber for more space to be added to, right? So
It's a little misleading too, thinking that he just got big really fast because he was in a sport, powerlifting, which you're normally trying to be as big as you can. But he was in particular weight classes where he was breaking all-time world records, and he was keeping himself suppressed in this lighter weight class. And then once he got out of it, once he went into bodybuilding,
a lot of that tissue was there.
his body went and just blew up.
There's a genetic component too, where guys who tend to aromatize more, so they convert more of their testosterone to estrogen. Bodybuilding, they have thicker skin, right? So you don't have that kind of, you can't really see the fibers moving under the way you can because you tend to hold more water. You may even tend to hold more subcutaneous body fat. So I don't aromatize heavily at all. I can run a gram of testosterone without needing an AI and have no symptoms. So I'm going to have more of that look than somebody who aromatizes very heavily. And that's also why I say a lot of times I don't use an aromatase inhibitor ever. I think a lot of people overuse them because they're paranoid about potential side effects, but it's all genetic, it's all individual.
Maybe previously people wouldn't have good enough reasons stacked up for them to take a little bit of a break from the intensity of what they're doing. And maybe now if you're getting your blood work done, you can look at it and say, oh, I should probably pull back here a little bit and then I'll go for it in this other area other time.
Absolutely.
But you solve some of those problems. You get help from people that are transcribing your blood work for you. Otherwise, you don't know what the hell you're looking at half the time. Like I had learned over the years to figure it out, but hemoglobin and your A1C and all the I didn't know any of that stuff.
The one I get the most is creatinine.
Yeah.
Because guys who have a lot of muscle mass, they're going to have more creatinine in their blood. Like, that's just normal. So you can have levels that are outside of the normal range. And your doctor's like, oh, your kidneys are failing. It's like, well, no, I have a lot of muscle. So, I had the cystatin C test, which is, doesn't matter how much muscle you have, it's going to be the same no matter what. And your kidneys are perfectly fine.
Yeah, and the standards based off of who these averages are based off of. Who the hell knows where they came up with those numbers. But it's nice to have people that understand, people that are wanting to be 250 pounds, primarily muscle, or people that want to be 300 pounds and compete in strongman.
Even something normal, like cholesterol, right, which is something everybody's concerned about, there's such a strong genetic component of it that it's difficult to see how much of a difference it makes, right? And if your cholesterol values are off, that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to have a heart attack or something. There's a lot of different factors that feed into that.
Yeah. I hate this one. I had this guy the other week hit me up and he's like, hey man, I just pulled 800 pounds from the floor and it's extra impressive because I was only on 175 test. And I'm like,
extra impressive.
Okay, well, I got my levels tested on 350 and it was at fucking 4,000. So like, doesn't mean shit.
Right.
Yeah, people really, they will look for any excuse
to get a little award.
Yeah,
right?
Anything. I had some guy DM me, he was like, yeah, so, I train way harder than most people. I train so hard.
That's a red flag.
Yup, 100%. As soon as somebody says that,
yeah, way harder than who?
Pussy.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, I did. It was like weighted pull-ups or something. I did it so hard my forearms bruised. It's like, doctors never seen anything like it. It's like, yeah, your forearm's probably shit.
A specimen. They've never seen it before.
It's ridiculous. Are you guys doing another set here?
I'd like to do another set.
Hell yeah.
Mark, I'm done. My knee's a little...
How much weight you want, Mark?
Just 2 plates would be perfect.
Okay, let's do it.
I see guys like yourself killing yourself all the time. Could you lift 5 to 10% less and be just as jacked?
Is the only goal to be just as jacked?
Yeah.
100% yes. I could probably lift 25% less and be just as jacked, maybe even more jacked, but I wouldn't have fun. I would not enjoy that. It would be miserable. I'm gonna hurt when I'm older, and I'm 100% okay with that. I think I talked about Terry on the podcast, Terry Todd.
Yeah.
So, he was pretty jacked up. He pushed his body really hard, and
he did Olympic lifting, and
powerlifting, yep. And I'm sure he had to train for strongman. He was working with Mark and everything, but he could do every single thing. Yeah, like he could go boating, he could go hiking with the dog. Like it wasn't
It hurt, I'm sure, but it wasn't impacting his quality of life, and I'm totally cool with that trade-off. In fact, if I don't get to that point, I'm gonna be like, I didn't fucking push hard. Like, fuck was I doing?
Right.
So, no, I don't think I would need to, but I'd like to.
So you think in a lot of your training you could get along just fine with 225 and
Maybe not 225, but I don't think I would ever have to go over 315 on upper body stuff and 495 on lower body stuff, right? Where it's like last month we were doing last week doing 725 for reps on deadlift. I don't need to do that shit.
Right.
Nick Walker is one of my favorite bodybuilders. He's one of the best examples. He just posted today. He's doing shoulder press with 405, but like most of his training, he's doing like 225, even less. Like really just getting that pump because he has enough size. He doesn't need that. He just needs what Taylor was talking about. You're really trying to perfect things. You're trying to get those little muscle groups a little bit smaller. They don't need 500 pounds for stimulus, right?
Right.
There we go.
Turn it out, man. Let's go.
Go, Ben.
Yes. Let's go.
Come on, good set. Yep. Come on.
Full foot the whole time.
Yep.
There you go.
Using your feet.
Nice work.
We get to put
Out of quarters.
Catch your breath and then go.
Good. Lock them in. Lock it in. Here we go. Nice.
It's not much work is getting into that lat, even though he shifted a lot of it to his hamstring. He still has to hold all this together right here.
Going.
There you go, Ben. Yep.
Keep going.
Good work. Good work. Keep using your butt. Keep using your hamstrings.
We got a little posterior training with the RDLs at the end. Every training session, I try to have a little bit of overlap, just a little bit. So we got a little extra leg work, but we had our vertical pull, our horizontal pull, vertical pull, and then a hip hinge movement. So just the 3 movements, each one based on our rep ranges. We're going for a total number of like kind of hard working reps. A little bit more with the chest supported row as our first movement, and a little bit heavier on the second. And again, that's just kind of based on a Prilepin stable of about where we want our session volume. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then finishing up with this kind of nasty superset to get the hip hinge portion, build a little bit of back thickness.